Welcome into Steelers Talk by Chat Sports. I'm Meghan Payton. We did it, guys. We got to 7,000 subscribers. So thank you, all of you who are watching Steelers Talk and who have already subscribed to our channel. If you guys have not, I promise we are here all off season to keep you updated on free agency, draft. Today we are talking Keith Butler replacements. So go to youtube.com/Steelers TV or click that big red button if you want to stay in the know on all things Steelers. So as I just mentioned, we are going to go over who should be the Steelers' next defensive coordinator. We did find out Keith Butler, as expected, did retire. That happened on Saturday. No longer going to be in the NFL for at least now. He's going to take a little probably step back, a little break after many years with the Steelers, many years in the NFL. He spent 7 seasons as the Steelers defensive coordinator, 19 years with the organization. And so now the Steelers are looking to, if you want to call it a rebuild year, I think that is appropriate, but they're going to be shifting their thoughts on how they approach this offseason, starting with the defensive coordinator. I think that they could do some improvement because you look at what happened in 2021. There were some areas that this defense did do well. I mean, clearly with TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, you're not going to have a terrible defense. They had the most sacks in the league, but they were last in rushing yards per game, 146.1. This is an area that we keep talking about. This has to be improved. You see the way that it cost the Steelers a lot of games this year. Passing yards or points per game, 20th in the league. Passing yards per game, they were 9th, so that's pretty decent. But this run defense has to be improved, and overall, just the points per game, that has to be improved. And so you look at what Keith Butler did during his 7 seasons as the Steelers defensive coordinator. This year was his worst year because, it started off strong. 2017, they were number 7 in the NFL. That's pretty good. 2018, they did have a significant drop with points per game, 17th in the league. Back up, though, in 2019, ranking at 6th. Then again, 2020, fantastic, ranking 3rd this year, a big drop down to 20 with 23.4 points per game. So I think that it was time. I don't know if, they had an agreement with Keith Butler, meaning that they wanted him to kind of step down, and so they go the route of retirement. That never really got made clear to us, but I do think that it'll be nice to see the Steelers kind of change up things, find a way to just, be a little bit better in an area, in a team that has some solid guys. I think they can do it. So we're going to get into 5 guys that I think the Steelers should consider hiring. But before I give you my take, I'm asking you, our pinned comment for the show is, who do you want as the next Steelers defensive coordinator? Go right now. Let's see if we agree on some of these guys or if you have some new candidates that you think might work. All right, the first guy we are talking about is going to be an internal option for Pittsburgh. That's what we keep hearing is, that's where you look first. Before you start going outside, you start thinking about who do we currently have on our coaching staff. And the number one guy we keep hearing about is Teryl Austin. He's the DB coach for the Steelers. There's been a lot of rumors about him saying that he's the leading candidate for defensive coordinator. I don't think that this is a bad idea. I know I've heard some of you guys kind of, feel a little bit against this, but the players love him. You can hear many guys, I think it was Trey Norwood talking the other day just about how much he respects Austin, how much he has done for this Steelers organization. And at the end of the day, this is Mike Tomlin's call most likely, and it's also his defense. So I do think Austin would be probably a very smooth transition, someone that they could, expect to perform well. Now, the second internal option that really would be the only other realistic internal option is Karl Dunbar, the defensive line coach, another guy that has been well respected amongst the organization. He's kind of gained the respect of a lot of players. They all love him there. They also love Austin. So these are the only 2, Steelers staff that I'd consider bringing in as a defensive coordinator. But I do think it's intriguing to look outside, see what else is available. But there's something to be said about that transition with sticking internal. So before we talk about some other guys around the league, I'll ask you guys this. Do you think that the Steelers should hire internally, or should they go after someone new? Part of me likes the idea of them going after someone new, but I'd probably choose Austin as a guy that would be the most secure and safe option. So go right now to the comments, type I for internal or type N for new if you want to see some change. And guys, of course, this is not the end of this. We are going to be talking more Steelers news, more Steelers offseason rumors. We've got the draft coming up, free agency. We should know more about where this D coordinator spot is landing, what they are thinking. So if you have not already, go to youtube.com/Steelers TV. Make sure your notifications are on. We'll give you guys free videos all season and off season long. All right, now let's switch into some other guys. Patrick Graham, the defensive coordinator for the Giants. Graham has been the Giants defensive coordinator for 2 years, but now his status is clearly a little bit unknown after they fired Joe Judge. So we talk about, when a head coach gets fired, most of the time that means you're going to lose a lot of your coaching staff because a new coach comes in and they want to revamp that staff. They want to bring in their own guys. So it's not 100% that Patrick Graham's not going to be there, but it wouldn't be surprising if the Giants were to get rid of him. And we did hear that the Steelers put in an interview request for Graham. This was kind of a surprise to me because all the reports and rumors that I had heard were that they were going after Teryl Austin. Then we hear this report that they are going to look outside a bit, go for maybe a guy like Patrick Graham, at least consider it. Now you look at what the Giants did in 2020, it's not good. And so there's not, I'd say it's a little bit below average in most areas, but then you look at, call it passing yards per game. Sure, they were 15th, but that's not fantastic. That's worse than what the Steelers were. They were, better than the Steelers in rushing yards per game because the Steelers were dead last. 25th, though, still not super impressive. So the positives about bringing in a guy like Patrick Graham is, yes, he's had D coordinating experience. He is dealing with a young, struggling team. So is it to his credit? How much could have he handled with that situation? I like the idea of trying out a guy like Patrick Graham, but also it's not super encouraging to see how this Giants defense played out in 2021. But as we are talking defense, and we have to mention the best defensive player in the league, without a doubt, TJ Watt. Now is the time. Go rep your Steelers team. Go pick out a perfect TJ Watt jersey, guys. I'm telling you right now, defensive player of the year, if he does not get it, the league is absolutely screwed. TJ Watt deserves it. So if you guys have not already, go check out chatsports.com/Steelers jersey. Go get a TJ Watt jersey. They've got men's, women's, children's, a ton of different options, and go rep the best defensive player in the league. All right, my fourth guy is, before you get upset, Don Wink Martindale, former defensive coordinator for the Ravens. Now, before you say to me, why in the world would we go after someone that was in our division for so many years? Martindale spent 4 years as the Ravens defensive coordinator, but they did just recently part ways with Martindale during the offseason. So this is kind of intriguing because Wink Martindale has definitely made a step in the Ravens defense. He's done really well apart from this year. So could the Steelers bring in a very familiar coach from their rivals? Look at what Wink's done throughout the 4 years that he's been in Baltimore. 2018, 2019, and 2020, very impressive, ranking second, third, and then second again in scoring points per game, only allowing 17.9 in 2018, 17.6 in 2019, and 18.9 in 2020. Now, however, that number jumped significantly this year in 2021, allowing 23.1 points per game, ranking 19th. Now, you do have to note, clearly the Ravens have dealt with a ton of injuries in 2021. So is this all his fault? Absolutely not. I think that this could be a good move for Pittsburgh. And I think there's going to be a lot of teams that are interested in bringing in a guy like Martindale. He's been very impressive. It's honestly surprising that he is not going to be with the Ravens next year. But you do have to remember, at the end of the day, as we talk about all these different guys, this is Mike Tomlin's defense. He is calling these defensive plays. We know that at the end of the day, this is Mike Tomlin's call. So it's kind of not as intriguing for a guy like Don Martindale to come in Martindale and say, hey, I'm going to listen to Mike Tomlin. He's made credibility in this league. So I don't know how intriguing he would feel about coming over to Pittsburgh. Now, our last option I have for you guys on today's show is Brendan Daly, defensive line coach for the Chiefs. Bringing anyone from the Chiefs is most likely a good idea. However, clearly the Chiefs have been more known this year for their offense, but Daly has been the D-line coach and run game coordinator since 2019. He's been around. He previously spent time in New England. He's been to 6 of the last 7 Super Bowls. That's pretty crazy to think about. I don't think there's many guys that can say that. And the one intriguing part about Daly is that Mike Tomlin and him worked together back in Minnesota. So that's always very helpful. I think a lot of coaches really appreciate that because they have that familiarity. They know how to work together. He's very familiar with Mike Tomlin's style, how he wants his defense run. And so I do think Daly could be a good option for Mike Tomlin if they didn't want to necessarily stay internal, but they wanted to bring in a familiar face as they look to the outside coaches who is available. But guys, there are a ton of options. These are just my top 5. So to go through these, we've got Teryl Austin probably leading right now as top candidate D-backs coach for Steelers. We've got Karl Dunbar, who I think could also be a good addition if they wanted to stay internal. Patrick Graham, the defensive coordinator for the Giants. Don Wink Martindale, the former defensive coordinator for the Ravens. And lastly, Brendan Daly, the defensive line coach for the Chiefs. So now it is your turn. I've given you my 5. Pick one of the 5 if you had to. Who would you like to have as the Steelers' next defensive coordinator? We've got a couple good options here, but you can see the numbers. Type 1 for Teryl Austin, type 2 for Dunbar, type 3 for Graham, type 4 for Martindale, or type 5 for Daly. And it's okay. You can give me your own takes here in the comments as well, but I do want to hear your thoughts on just these 5 guys and who you would like to see as the coordinator next year. And of course, we will keep you updated. There is going to be change, and change is going to happen soon. So you do not want to miss out on this. Go to youtube.com/SteelersTV. Turn the notifications on. Make sure you are prepared for when the Steelers make a move.